moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
Let's go. Let's go. That is exactly what we needed to see. The much needed palate cleanser. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy, Mac. And tonight, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Miami Heat for the second time in 3 days. And this felt like a much different performance. There were a lot of different things that occurred tonight that were awesome to see. There are a lot. I took a lot of notes tonight, but I'm going to try and just come off the dome, because that was a brilliant performance in many regards. Craig Porter Jr., what a hell of a day, a hell of a game for Craig Porter Jr. Same can be said for Jarrett Allen. But honestly, though, those two guys balled out, and we saw a 30-point game from Jarrett Allen, and he takes 20 field goal attempts, which is his most since I think that actually ties his career high. He's had 20 field goal attempts 4 times in his career. He's done this 4 times in his career. And tonight, 30 and 10, the double-double on an efficient 12 of 20 from the field and 6 of 7 from the charity stripe. I mean, Jarrett Allen was really, really playing out there tonight. They gave him the rock in ways that we hadn't seen, honestly, that often this season. And he went to work. Honestly, I mean, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful sight to see as they got it to him in his spots. He was pivoting out there, getting the inside position and putting up some very contested looks. He was showing his post growth and what he can do for you if you actually feed him the damn ball. I mean, his 12 field goal attempts in the first half were the most of any half this season, and his 20, as I mentioned, ties a career high. And that was just phenomenal to see. And I already mentioned Craig, right? Craig was brilliant tonight in relief of so many guys. You know, Donovan didn't play. Darius is obviously ruled out. Evan was ruled out tonight with rest. Max hasn't played yet this season. Jalen Tyson was ruled out with a concussion. I mean, half the fucking rotation was out. I mean, there's nothing else to say. There's no other way around it. Half the rotation was missing tonight, and Craig filled in quite admirably, if I do say so myself. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, 4 blocks. Where do they do that at? I mean, seriously, that is a crazy stat line, not to mention going 7 of 12 from the field, including 3 of 3 from distance and 2 of 3 from the charity stripe. So not only did you get a very versatile stat line from Craig Porter Jr., you got efficiency out there. You got heart. You got hustle. You got him just giving his all out there. And I know that a lot of people have questioned whether or not Craig Porter Jr. really has what it takes to be a rotational player at times. Tonight was a step in the right direction. In his 32 minutes, he gave you just about everything that you could have wanted from him and more. There are more performances to talk about, but I got to admit, the thing that may have impressed me the most, and you guys know, if you've watched this channel for any number of years, if you've been out there and watching some of these videos, you know that Mac Perry is a believer in Luke Travers, and you know that Mac Perry is a believer in Naquan Tomlin. Now, Chris Livingston, we haven't seen him yet. That's the third two-way. But Tomlin and Travers, if you've been a member or subscriber to this channel for any number of years, you know that I am a huge believer in these guys. You know that I'm a huge believer in these guys. And guess what? They balled out tonight. Wasn't the most efficient night if you're taking sheer field goal attempts into the equation, but I think more importantly was the energy that these dudes brought in. It was tangible out there on the glass, in the glass specifically. Yes, the defensive end was awesome too, but anytime you can get 7 rebounds from Thomas Bryant, anytime you can get 6 rebounds from Naquan Tomlin, anytime you get 4 rebounds from Luke Travers, I mean, these dudes combined for 17 rebounds tonight. I mean, listen, this is obviously a night when the Cavaliers are shorthanded and you're not expecting much in terms of win, right? I came in believing, hey, the Cavaliers, they're dangerous. They're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose. I didn't necessarily expect a win, but I knew it was possible. It was very possible with the level of talent that this team has at its disposal, even with all of those guys out. And you know what? They showed up. They bought out. I dropped the video earlier, and one of the things I mentioned is these guys would get a lot of run and they would have a perfect prime opportunity on their hands. One of the guys that I highlighted was Tyrese Proctor. And while it wasn't the most efficient night for Proctor, as he would go 4 of 15 from the field, including 2 of 8 from deep, I legitimately liked a lot of what I saw out there. But I got to tell you, man, I was very impressed with the deep reserves tonight. I was very impressed by the trio of Thomas Bryant, who a lot of people believe should be in that Cavalier rotation. And I was really impressed by Tomlin and Travers. You guys already know I'm a big believer in those guys for various reasons. The really big thing that continues to hold Travers back is the lack of a three-point shot. And you know what? He did not knock down a triple tonight. He went just 1 of 5 from the field overall, but it was the hustle out there on the glass and the defensive end. He had a really nice rejection tonight. Actually had 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Travers is somebody who I think has NBA level qualities, but just does not have the three-point shot, which kind of renders him almost you know, a long shot in terms of regular rotation minutes without that. But man, it was beautiful to watch. And then Bryant, as I mentioned, his work out there on the glass, 2 offensive rebounds tonight for Bryant, 4 offensive rebounds for Tomlin. These guys just came to play on the glass, and they were a huge reason why Cleveland was able to come back in this game, right? I mean, we're talking about all these offensive rebounds that resulted in 26 second chance points for the Cavs. I mean, it was insane. The energy out there, the hustle, the heart, you could feel it through the TV screen. If you weren't in Miami watching this game, you could literally feel the energy just emanating from these guys. You felt that you felt it. It was tangible out there. They would finish with 15 offensive rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. I absolutely loved it. Now, the thing I think that is going to stick out to everybody if they actually watch this game like I did, it was the fact that the Cavaliers were not necessarily over-reliant on the three-point shot tonight. They were not over-reliant on three-point shots tonight, and they force-fed the ball to Jarrett Allen. They got the ball. They attacked the painted area, and that would result in 58 points in the paint. And I mentioned this on the last pod in the on Monday against Miami. Miami is a team that thrives. They thrive off of paint points. I think they lead the NBA in that category. And Cleveland gave them a taste of their own medicine tonight, outscoring them 58-56 in that category. That was beautiful. As I mentioned already, Jarrett Allen, 20 field goal attempts tonight. Only the 4th time in his NBA career that he has managed to do that. And I think the 3 other times may have come during the 2023-24 season where, guess what? They were actually utilizing Jarrett Allen almost the same way that they did tonight, when they actually had no choice but to. When you didn't have Darius Garland, when you didn't have Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and Sam Merrill, and Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, and Jarrett Allen were really carrying those 2023-24 Cavs at a certain point. And that is kind of what you saw tonight. No Donovan, obviously, but they managed to get the ball to Jarrett Allen as much as they can. And today, honestly, it felt like 2 W's in one. I had this conversation with somebody earlier, and they kind of said, this Cavaliers team is going to get smoked tonight, and they're resting guys. Guess what? They won and they got the rest. So you won twice over. That's how I'm feeling. I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather, I would feel much more embarrassed. I would feel much worse about losing the game against the Cavaliers B team than I would feel good about winning on a last second lob. I mean, one of those is going to make you feel big. One of those is going to make you feel better than the other. And I think the one that obviously stings is losing the way that Miami did tonight. All these Miami fans that were sitting up here on social media just chirping away, doing all their victory lapping, and I'm like, y'all in for a L. And they're dead quiet after this one. And you love to see that because they were relentlessly talking shit. And this is exactly what can happen if you take your opponent too lightly. And I'm not saying that Miami did that, but what I love is that Cleveland, they showed out, they showed up, and they gave a lot of heart. And it wasn't from guys who are normally in the rotation, which honestly is probably a good thing. Donovan Mitchell sitting there, Darius Garland sitting there, Evan Mobley sitting there, watching these guys play their asses off, watching them out there show all this heart. They need to take some notes because that the energy has not been there from the regular rotational members, save a few. So I'm very, very proud of what the B team or the deep reserves were able to bring to the table tonight. There is a lot that the regular rotation pieces can actually take away from this game in terms of emulating that. I mean, you just got to feel good about this. And I know I wasn't the only person to pick this up during the during the broadcast. Brad Doherty says a lot of different things. Some of them insightful, some of them comical, some of them not so much. And we talked about the Kia lady tonight. That was funny. But one of the things that I think he said tonight that stuck with me, and I'm sure it stuck with a lot of you guys too, is simply the fact that they need to stop ignoring the painted area and not take so many threes, essentially. I don't have the exact quote of what he said, but you got to stop shooting so many damn threes every single night out there. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. One of the things that has ailed the Cavaliers to begin this season is a lack of dribble penetration. I think you saw a lot of that tonight, honestly. Craig Porter Jr. being fully unleashed off that bench in 32 minutes. He antagonized in Miami. He drove inside. He put rim pressure on their defense. And that is an element that has been lacking because Lonzo Ball, and we'll talk about Lonzo in a minute, Lonzo doesn't really do that all that often. Sam Merrill, he's not really that guy. DeAndre Hunter is somebody that can do that, but there's only so much that he can bring to the table in that regard. Tyrese Proctor, it remains to be seen if that is truly something he can do efficiently and consistently. And really, that's it in terms of the non-Donovan, non-Darius players on the roster. And so seeing that out there tonight, you know that it's possible. But prior to tonight, one of the things that that had been really glaring is just that lack of dribble penetration. And when you don't have that, you're not going to be as good at getting the ball to your bigs on the interior. You're not going to see a lot of dump off passes. What you're going to see is the ball moving side to side or the ball being brought up and less entry passes being taken place, right? Less DHO work, less pick and roll. And I thought you saw a lot more of that tonight, if I'm being honest. And just honestly giving the ball to Jarrett Allen in the paint and in the post and seeing what he could bring. And guess what? Motherfucker brought it tonight. For anybody that questions his value, for anybody that questions his heart out there, nights like tonight can be a defining thing. And I mean, that can tell you everything you need to know. When you actually utilize your all-star caliber big man, good things can happen. Good things can happen. The Cavaliers get 2-3 happy at times, and you see how much that can bite teams in the ass. Now, I'm glad that tonight obviously ended in a W. I'm glad that the Cavaliers were able to get some rest, some much needed rest on this road trip that's going to be really difficult. But there are clear takeaways from this one that I'm hoping that the regular guys really take to heart. Now, entering tonight, Cleveland was averaging by far the most three-point attempts of any team in the NBA at 47.1 triples attempted per contest. These motherfuckers are shooting almost 53s per game. Almost 53s per game. And guess what? They're only converting on 36.1%. That, my friends, is 14th in the NBA. Obviously, it's completely different from last year. Some of your best shooters are not out there right now or on the roster in the case of a Ty Jerome. But they've become so over-reliant on that three-point shot that they have ignored one of the bigger strengths of their team. And that is the play of the bigs. You have a big all-star level center in Jarrett Allen. Use him. You have Thomas Bryant, somebody who can bring you physicality out there and hustle and energy on the glass. Somebody who can space the floor, right? Even if it's not in high volume, he's still a threat at the 5. These are different things that you can utilize. You have players on your roster that can do a lot of these things that we are expecting of you. It's just they haven't always been put into position to do them. And so tonight, I love it. I absolutely loved it because they attacked the interior, and that has been something that has been sorely missing. It's been sorely missing from this offense. And I think that the lack of creativity, some of that is on the fact that the personnel who's available, but a large part of it too is on coaching. You have to be a little bit more creative. If you know Lonzo is not a huge driver of the basketball, if you know that Tyrese Proctor is a rookie, you don't want to put too much pressure on him. If you know that Craig Porter Jr. is capable of doing this, you got to scheme up ways to get that type of passing, to get that type of ball movement, to get to the interior. You have to scheme up ways. You got to be more creative. You got to use more DHOs. You got to use more big-to-big passing. A lot of different things that they can do. But oftentimes just don't, in my opinion. And I know that this is all about experimentation, all about evaluating, and you got a lot of that. You honestly got to rest some of your best players, and you got to win. That's a double whammy, in my opinion, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that's got to burn the Miami Heat and their fans up inside, knowing what happened tonight in a game where the Cavaliers weren't necessarily extremely efficient. They shot just 43.3% from the field, including 29.8% from three-point range. They only hit 14 triples tonight as a unit. You just got to be able to attack the heart of a defense in the interior. The pick and roll out there is something that I talked about ad nauseum earlier on, and their frequency is way down in terms of pick and roll ball handling this year. They entered tonight at around 17.1% in terms of that frequency. That is a pretty substantial drop off from where it was last year, where they were league leading. Now, obviously, a lot of that is Darius Garland not being available to begin the season. A lot of that is Max Strus even not being available to begin the season. But I refuse to believe that you cannot replicate some of that because we just fucking saw it tonight. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm trying to stand my ground in that regard. And yeah, I did mention Lonzo Ball. He is a name that I think truly is a controversial one. And what I've tried to say with people, and Lonzo drew the start tonight. He played 20 minutes, 29 seconds. And in those 20 minutes, he scored 15 points, grabbed 2 rebounds, doled out 8 assists, got a steal, got a block, but he was still a -9 on the court. To me, I look at the game that Lonzo had, and damn the plus minus. I thought that he had a pretty damn good game, right? Lonzo, at this point in time, I try to express to people, you have to be patient with Lonzo, especially in terms of the efficiency. And as Bando's burner says down here, -9 does not match the eye test. That's one of those things, right? That's one of those things where you look at it and you say to yourself, you have to remind yourself, one, it's a team stat. 2, it can be a very misleading. Jarrett Allen, despite having a 30-point, 10 rebound double-double, was only +2 tonight. There is your answer right there. Lonzo Ball had a pretty damn good game. Guess what? He knocked down 4 triples on 7 attempts. That's 57.1 from three-point distance. He knocked down all of his free throws, and he made some really wonderful passes out there. Lonzo had a good game in a start in just under 21 minutes of action. And so that's why I say you have to be patient with him, because while the floor might feel lower because he doesn't provide that offensive spark that a player like Ty Jerome often did last year, where he was just capable of getting the Cavaliers off to a cavalanche on his own right, I think that the ceiling is higher. The ceiling is definitely higher than what it was with Ty Jerome because of the two-way play. Now, here's where I push back on this and where I try to remain objective. Objectively speaking, Lonzo Ball, in terms of on-ball defense, hasn't necessarily fared too well to begin the season. But what Lonzo has been excellent at this year has been disruption. The passing lanes, he is a menace in them. Somebody who goes out there and strips the ball from a ball handler, whether it be at the rim, in transition. He's trying to stop a play before it actually happens out there. And Lonzo's been really, really good out there. He's made a lot of these effort plays. And I think that when you see that being brought to the table on a nightly basis, I think that ultimately speaking, Lonzo is going to be the more impactful player because of that two-way play. I think that the floor feels lower than it did with Ty Jerome because of the offense, but it's not actually that, right? I think the floor and ceiling are actually higher because of what he brings to the table on both ends. That's just where I'm at with Lonzo right now. Damn the efficiency, damn the the shooting numbers overall. I just want one thing above all else for Lonzo Ball right now. And you guys already know what I'm about to say. Call me a glazer, say that I'm pumping him up, but all I want from Lonzo right now is health. Stay healthy. And this is the most healthy version of Lonzo Ball that we have seen in years. This is dating back to even last year, where he made his comeback after 2 years away from basketball. And then he only plays 35 games, misses more time because of the wrist injury and whatnot, and a few other little nicks and things of that nature. But Lonzo legitimately looks to be the healthiest that we have seen him be in a number of years. And tonight, if I am not mistaken, was his 10th appearance of the season. And in those 10 appearances, because Cavaliers have now played 12 games. Lonzo, to me, he is maybe not what he once was in terms of the defense, in terms of the sheer athleticism that he used to have. And by no means, Lonzo's never truly been a guy that's been, solely relying on athleticism to get by. He still has more than enough to carve out a meaningful role on a championship contending team such as the Cavaliers. And I think that's finally going to start happening for him as the season goes on. I think the efficiency will go up. I think that if you're looking at what Lonzo does poorly and you're seeing the shooting numbers not look great, it's not going to make you feel good. But I encourage people, please just be patient with him. After tonight's game, he is averaging 6.1 points, 5.4 assists off the bench, and 3.7 rebounds. And he is now shooting 33.3% from the field, including 31.3% from beyond the arc. Again, I get the conversations regarding his efficiency. He's never truly been a player in terms of overall field goal percentage that's been heavily efficient. He hovers around 40% from the field overall, but it's the three-point shot that can be such a deciding factor for him, and it's on high volume, mind you. This is not necessarily a player that's going to shoot 39-40% from 3-point distance, but it's coming on 2-3 attempts from the field, like we saw with Okoro at points during his career and Dean Wade at times too. This is a player who that is very capable at knocking down the catch and shoot triple, somebody that is not hesitant to take that shot, even if it's a pull-up triple, somebody that is going to give you a bunch of volume out there come rain or shine, even if it's not as efficient as you would like it to be. And as long as Lonzo can get to 37-38%, hell, I'll set up for 36% if it's on good volume, 4 or 5 attempts per game, along with the playmaking, along with the rebounding, along with the defense that he brings to the table. I can live with that as long as this motherfucker is healthy come the playoff times and hopefully through the playoffs. And I know that injuries in the Cavaliers, it felt like a match made in heaven over the years, as we've seen so many different players deal with various elements, whether that be Darius with this toe injury, whether that be Don with the hamstring or the knee, whether that be Jarrett with the ribs or the hand, right, the thumb. It's just come in varying stages. But the one thing that I believe above all else is that if we are patient, the goal is still very much possible. And I get that people were really pissed about some of the players that rested tonight, i.e. Mobley and Donovan. But when you consider the larger goal at hand, it's nothing, especially if you can walk away with a W. And the Cavaliers clearly felt that they had enough walking into this one that to bring home a victory. And guess what? That's what they did. Now they'll go into this second half or the second leg of a back-to-back, going back home tonight and playing the Toronto Raptors tomorrow. I'm just at a point right now where I'm like, okay, if it takes resting guys, if it takes certain players taking nights off, as long as they get a top 4 seed in this Eastern Conference and people are healthy, I'm good. And I know it's going to sting not possibly being able to watch a player like Darius Garland, who we know is just so important to this offense and how efficient he can have things run when he's out there, how big of an orchestrator he is, how he settled things down, right? I know that it sucks if he's possibly going to be out for an amount of time. But if that's what it takes, I'm all for that. I am completely all in on that idea. Hell, if you got to hold him out until January, that's fine. I have no problem believing that the Cavaliers can tread water until he comes back. But that's just me speculating. Who knows how long he'll actually be out? I know the news we got today wasn't necessarily like definitive, but it was at least better than what it could have been. Apparently, there were no structural damage mentioned. There's no ligament damage, right? It's just a contusion. So I think that is a lot better than the alternative. That's a lot better than the alternative. And that's awesome. But if it means that you get all this cool development from a player like Craig Porter Jr., who is in a kind of a make or break season for himself, that's awesome because he performed very well tonight. He looks ultra confident. There is a swagger about him. He hustles on the defensive end. When's the last time you saw a guard go out there, the Craig Porter Jr. size, swat 4 shots? I mean, it's insane. And we know that this is a player that's very capable of doing that. As at Wichita State, he led his team in that category despite being 6'1", 6'2". It's just good to be able to get these guys opportunities. And Craig got 32 minutes off the bench tonight to showcase what exactly he can bring to the equation. And so when this team gets healthy, you know that you have a player that you can possibly turn to and feel comfortable giving it to him. The problem is finding consistency for him. And we know during his rookie year, he did have a lot of opportunities, and we know what the struggles were his rookie year. That 3-point shot was woeful, but he gives you such a unique combination and versatility of skills, right? The bag out there that he has is growing. It's ever growing. And while he may always struggle to get a consistent role, as you have Lonzo on the roster, as you have a Donovan, as you have a Darius, and all these other guards on the roster, I do think that on any other team in the NBA, this man is a rotation player on a night-to-night basis. The Cavaliers are just really deep at guard. And I know that's the life of a role player. I know that sucks, but it's just pretty awesome to be able to turn to that off your bench. Who else out here? DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre was a player I think that many of us were expecting to have a bigger night because simply the Cavaliers didn't have too many self-creators, and DeAndre is certainly counts as a self-creator. He's averaging the highest utilization of his career to begin this season. And I think that was expected as he is starting, and there's a contingent of fans. And I'll admit, right, the idea if you don't necessarily have Darius Garland available, if you're struggling to get bench creation or bench scoring, the Cavaliers, prior to tonight, and I know tonight they kind of went off, but prior to tonight, their bench scoring has been absolutely atrocious. And so for the people out there that believe that Hunter maybe should start or maybe should come off the bench, there's validity to that. And honestly, I wouldn't mind it. But when Hunter is playing like he did tonight, and I know, listen, he's taken a lot of flack from defensive standpoint. He had a couple of plays. It wasn't just the last one, right? And I know that a lot of that was on coaching, not packing the paint against Miami on Monday. But there were a handful of plays even in that matchup where he's watching the ball, just ball watching. I watched a lot of backdoor cuts. You saw some of that tonight, maybe not necessarily to the highest, to the degree it was on Monday, but there are plays where where Hunter legitimately is ball watching defensively. And I legitimately get so frustrated. But here, at this point in time, when you have somebody who is able to create the way that he does, when he's able to drive into the painted area, when you know you don't have as much dribble penetration as you need, when he's improving on the glass, he pulled down 6 rebounds tonight. And from an advanced analytical standpoint, the numbers are looking much better than they did in his first half a season with Cleveland, because he didn't start the year with Cleveland last year, obviously. But I think that there are some improvements out there, and he would finish his night with 21 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and was a pretty efficient 8 of 13 from the field, including 1 of 5 from three-point distance. A point of contention for this team has been free throws. Guess what? The Cavaliers actually managed to shoot above 80% from the charity stripe tonight. 83.9%. 26 of 31 from the free throw line. That's a step in the right direction. I know that some of this can be attributed to the personnel, right? As to begin this season, it has felt like the culprit has been everybody, as Donovan hasn't been necessarily as efficient as he has been. Evan Mobley has struggled at times with his three-point shot, and we saw him go 2 of 7 from the charity stripe on Monday. And tonight, it just didn't feel that. It didn't feel that way. Naquan Tomlin was 5 of 6. Luke Travers and Tyrese Proctor were 2 of 2. Craig Porter Jr. and Lonzo Ball were 3 of 3 and 2 of 3, respectively. Sam Merrill was 2 of 2. Jarrett Allen was 6 of 7. It honestly felt as if they came to play and they were locked in at the charity stripe. And we've been screaming for them to do that. On the Miami side of town, listen, all credit where credit is due. Norman Powell, from an objective standpoint, is a fun player to watch. 27 points for him tonight. Pretty efficient, 10 of 18. Well, actually very efficient, 10 of 18 from the field. That's 55.6% from the field. 5 of 10 from three-point distance. This is a player that honestly is a case study for development not being linear. Norman Powell has, and I'll say it one more time, objectively speaking, has been one of the biggest surprises in the recent NBA, right? This is a player who has been in the league now for 10 years, obviously entered the league, but feels like a very, very long time ago for the Toronto Raptors during the 2015-2016 season, in which he played about 49 games. Fast forward to around the 2022-23 season with the Los Angeles Clippers, and this man has felt like and it's honestly it has felt like he has been a perennial six-man of the year caliber type of player. And this year, he's starting. Last year, he was starting for that Clippers team. And he's been fully unleashed this year. 24 and a half points to begin the season, 4.3 boards, 2.4 assists, is extremely efficient from both the field and three-point distance. This man is basically 50-40-90 out there. He's shooting 46% from the field, 45.8% from deep, and 93.8% from the free throw line. He is essentially 50-40-90, and he has just been phenomenal for this Miami Heat team that has been very good defensively and offensively. Had prior, I think, leading up to the game on Monday, was leading the NBA in points per game as a team. And so, objectively speaking, and I know I've thrown that word around like 3,000 times now, Norman Powell has been a very, very, very fun player to watch. And I hope that his progression, because Norman at this time, I mean, we're talking about a 32-year-old, and he's had kind of a late bloom. It's just felt like a late bloom. So happy to see him ball out the way that he has. And he had a pretty good game tonight for Miami, and I'll leave it at that for him. Last night's hero in Andrew Wiggins, well, not last night, Monday night's hero in Andrew Wiggins contributed 17 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and he was 7 of 13 from the field overall. And I think Wiggins obviously looks a lot better than he did last year as well. So credit to them. They did their best to try and carry the Miami Heat team to a W, but it was for naught, as the Cavaliers deep reserves and along with Jarrett Allen and Craig Porter Jr., they were able to really bring this one home. Let's not forget DeAndre Hunter as well. But that's really all that there is. This is a feel-good type of win. This is one that should honestly take any nasty taste left in your mouth from Monday night and completely wash it away. And I think with that being the case, let's hop into the chat. Reef Gang says, in Ohio, yes. The Fro, again, beautiful 30-10 double-double. Just the fourth time in his NBA career that he has attempted at least 20 field goals, and he rewarded the Cavaliers. Absolutely love it. He also says, CBJ, Travers, Bryant, Tomlin said, fuck it, we ball. That's exactly what happened. You love to see that. Neverbloom says, wrong, another W. J.A. and CB motherfucking J. Also, we need more Thomas Bryant minutes. He most definitely impacted the game. This is the thing that will forever be difficult with Thomas Bryant. Obviously, the thing that we have to, if we're trying to be objective here, if we're trying to be realistic here, Evan Mobley did not play tonight. And that is a huge minute getter at center. As things currently stand, and I know a lot of people ultimately believe Evan Mobley should play center long term, but as things stand right now, Evan Mobley is essentially playing more center than he's played power forward this year. He's actually played 61% of his minutes at the center spot this year compared to 39% at the power forward. That is by far the biggest split of his career. Most minutes he's ever played at the center. Now, I know some of that is simply them trying to match up Hunt because Mobley is a nightmare when he's playing the center at times. I just don't think he's fully suited to be a center for the entirety of a season. And so when you have Mobley playing so much 5, and I think that's the right move in specific lineups, as you take advantage of his ability to space the floor and be a matchup nightmare. When you have Jarrett Allen, who's an all-star level center in his own right, it's harder to find consistent minutes for a player like Thomas Bryant, who can only technically play the 5. That is just me being honest. But what I can say is that on a night where Larry Nance Jr. and Larry, it's my guy, right? 1 of 3 from the field tonight, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Listen, from a statistical standpoint, I don't go out every single night expecting Larry to explode. I think the film at times shows that there's some hesitancy to attack the interior when he gets the ball. And so you're seeing some dribble handoffs. You're seeing some things that are nice and some connective passing out there. But in terms of that 3-point shot, in terms of the rebounding, in terms of being somebody that can step out and switch onto the perimeter, it it can be difficult at times. I'm going to be patient with Larry. That's my guy, and I'm not going to overreact about anything. But on nights where Larry doesn't have it, because we know that Larry is capable of playing center, and that's what he has done over the last couple of seasons for various teams. And mind you, being fully transparent, Larry has played just 20% of his minutes this season at center. He has played 80% of his minutes at the power forward position this year. And neither, in terms of the advanced analytics, painted to be that great. It just hasn't been the greatest start to the season for Larry. And so when Larry's not having a great game, knowing that you can go to Thomas Bryant off the bench if you make the lineups work, that's a beautiful thing. And so if you have to find them in its specific ways, I'm okay with it. It's just not something that I think that we can expect on a night-to-night basis if Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are both playing. It's a difficult thing to do. Very, very difficult thing to do. And so that, if you're being realistic, if you're being objective and not just taking one game into consideration, that is about as honest as I can be. Rick Dog 216 says, yes, sir. Land in the building. Go Cavs. JA turn up 30 points, 10 boards. My dog. That's what I'm talking about, man. He also says CBJ turn up on him. He certainly did. I loved every single minute of Craig Porter Jr. that we saw tonight. Joe Slop says, love what I see from Naquan Tomlin. Listen, you guys know, if you've been a fan of this channel, if you've been a subscriber for any number of years, you know that I've been really, and I know Naquan hasn't been here that long, obviously, but if you are subscribed to this channel, at least within the last calendar year, prior to them even signing him to a standard two-way contract, you know that I'm a believer in Tomlin, and I think that he should get more opportunities. And I thought that he gave you a pretty big showcase during the summer league. I entered this season thinking that, hey, this is a guy that could potentially provide a good presence in terms of the rebounding out there, depending upon where you play him at. But obviously, with the team being as deep as it is, it's harder to find these guys minutes on a night-to-night basis. And so it was nice to see him go out there and contribute nicely. Floyd Phillips II says, stop shooting all those threes. Bradley Lee Doherty. I think I made mention of this already, but yeah, I mean, Brad made mention of it outside of the Kia lady reference. Brad did drop that gem, and I thought that that was a very good point. The Cavaliers, as I mentioned, as a unit, are leading the NBA in 3-point attempts per game at 47.1 per night entering tonight. The number was trimmed down tonight. Wasn't necessarily well, actually, no, it wasn't. Let's be real. They took 47 triples tonight, but they also made a really, what felt like a really conscious effort to get the ball inside tonight to Jarrett Allen. And I was happy about that. HJ17 Gaming says, still thinking the Cavs' biggest weakness is the backup 4-5. Shout out to JA, Dre, and CBJ for going crazy tonight. I think if you're being objective, that is fair. I understand the line of thought because Larry has not had the greatest play to begin the year, and Thomas, he kind of is somebody that he does have limitations, but he also is a player that can bring a lot to the table against specific matchups or when you need some energy out there. And so I think it's fair to say that. I just don't know how you go about addressing that outside of tinkering and experimenting, and because they're not. In my opinion, at least, they're not going to make a trade this year. You have to make salaries match. It's not worth trying to do that. It is something that is very difficult to do in this new CBA. And I think you probably are watching the Cavaliers as currently constructed. They're probably not somebody who's going to be active around the trade deadline. I know that Dean Wade is on an expiring contract. I know people are probably going to talk about that being leading up to the deadline, but I think they legitimately like what they have in Dean, at least, from a defensive standpoint. I know the offense can be hit and miss with Dean at times. As Dean, right, he had some big triples tonight. He was 2 of 4 from deep on his way to 8 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, and a steal in his 26 minutes of action. But I just don't see the Cavaliers making a move. And so if you're concerned about the 4 or 5 spot, I think you're just kind of have to live and see how Mobley, Allen, Bryant, Nance, Wade, Hunter, even at the 4 at times, is that's where he started tonight. It's going to be hit and miss at times in terms of the backup 4 or 5 minutes, but I think that they have enough there, especially playing Mobley as many backup 5 minutes as they are, to be okay, to make up for it. Rich X Clee says, great win, yo. We need more Thomas Bryant. Play him more. Rick Dog says, what up, Mac brother? What's up, man? What's up? Beast Girl says, must earn win. They certainly did that tonight. It was beautiful to watch. Some dude on Twitter stalked me, says 10 to 11 guys every night, no more than 30 minutes, no less than 29 minutes. This is the deepest squad in the NBA. It is a strength, not a weakness. I think there is validity to that. I also think the counterpoint is that sometimes you want to make sure that specific players are having enough minutes to get into a rhythm, especially as they work their way back from injuries. And I think you want lineup consistency and rotation consistency. It's harder to do that, especially with closing lineups, if you're trying to truly play 11 players deep. But I do think they definitely have the capability to play 10. Kenny, as of tonight, he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 deep tonight. Nobody played fewer, if I'm not mistaken, than Luke Travers, 12 minutes and 6 seconds of action. Thomas Bryant was a close second at 12 minutes and 48 seconds. So there is proof that it can work, but sometimes I think it's not always as sustainable as we want it to seem. I mean, nobody played more than Craig's 32 minutes tonight. That's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you're going to need your star guys to truly carry you home. But in other games, leaning on your bench can really show that you believe in them. And then there are other nights when your bench just doesn't give you anything. So you have to lean on your stars a bit more. We've already seen that happen this year. Ben Osburner says, I'm extremely proud of I'm assuming that you're talking about the team in general. Some dude on Twitter also says, for all you J.A. Fro and Carlito haters, you owe them both an apology. Obviously, that's referring to the Fro and CPJ. Yeah, agreed. Number 17 says, finally about to get some company over here on CPJ Island. Listen, Craig has the talent, in my opinion. He just is inconsistent at times. Tonight, he certainly put everything together, and you loved to see that. Ryan Bailey 8693 says, needs to be said, J.A. is a better post scorer than Evan. J.A. is more decisive, stronger, and has better touch around the rim. Mobley obviously clears in shooting and ball handling, though. I think you can make a case for both. And that's certainly fair. I think when you actually get Jarrett Allen involved, when you have given the opportunities, he will generally it'll pay off for you. Cavs Fan Lounge says, great W. I can rest peacefully with this one. If like Spo says, just think you scored 130 without your best 3 players and a key role player in Tyson. That's got to feel good. You got rest. You got the dub. Move on back home to Toronto. That's going to be a good one too. Jonah Quest says, I've been in love with CBJ since he gave Embiid the business. Man, those rookie year clips for Craig Porter Jr. were phenomenal. He had a great rookie year game against Denver too, Jokic and company, but the Philly game definitely sticks out as well. And he's had these moments since he's entered the NBA that has genuinely left you believing that, yeah, this is an NBA caliber guard. This is somebody that can make a rotation. It's just the three-point shot needed work. The confidence wasn't always there. And I think that the consistency and decision-making, right? Those were things that you all needed to see. Chaz Erica 9856 says, Wade has been playing better, but overall has been a negative so far. Hope he turns it around in a contract year. I mean, I'm right there with you. It has not been a great start necessarily to the season for Dean, but there are some plays from game to game where he legitimately has an impact. He's entering tonight. He is shooting 36.7% from the field, including 33.3% from three-point distance. Those percentages are going to change after tonight's game, but Dean is somebody the Cavaliers are going to continue to lean on because he still provides pretty damn good defense out on the wing. And I think that's fair. Lawrence Goggins II says, facts, Tomlin and Travers were being wanted We've been wanting to see them blossom in the regular season. Love to see it. It was awesome, Lawrence, to see them get rotational burn. And I think that these are players, obviously, that are not going to be dependent on as everyday rotational types. But when you have them playing the way that they do in a much needed capacity, you needed some energy out there. You needed somebody out there that could provide that hustle and match up with Miami because they're going to bring it. They brought it, and there's nothing really more impressive than a player that is willing to put his body on the line. And you saw a lot of that tonight. You saw people with cuts, right? Naquan Tomlin getting cut right below the eye. Craig Porter Jr. getting cut. It made me think Miami needs to clip their damn nails. A little too close for comfort. But tonight was a fun one. A fun one. As Bandos Burner says, hit that like, chat. Listen, do your boy a favor and do as Bando says right there. You never know how much you help your boy out when you do that. But such a phenomenal performance. I hope they're able to keep it going into tonight, or into tomorrow rather, against Toronto. But we shall see. And I guess that's probably a good place to end it as of right now. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to It's Cavalier 53, and I will send you said invite. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so on YouTube as well for as little as $1 a month. I promise you, I am trying to put some things together there, and I need some help from you guys on what you might like to see, the types of perks or benefits. I'm all for it. My ears are open. I'm listening. But overall, even if you don't, I'll still be here creating the content because I love this team, and I know you guys do too. Go Cavs.